This is CBS.
News 21 tonight at 6 and 11. Watch it.
For the last 1,200 miles of the Tour de France, the people have lined the route expecting to see an obvious leader of the race, and it hasn't happened. You know, as we enter the Pyrenees, there are still at least 10 riders who can win this Tour de France. That hasn't happened perhaps in 40 years. You've always had an Eddy Merckx or a Bernard Hinault, or indeed last year's winner Greg LeMond, as obvious chiefs of the pack. Well, the Pyrenees normally are great levellers, but the way this Tour de France is going, it really could only add to the confusion of a very mysterious tour.
It's Bastille Day in the Basque capital of Po, gateway to the Pyrenees. Serve as a reminder, a warning, to abandon all hope, ye who have come to the Pyrenees. Because before there was a Bastille Day, and before there was a Tour de France, there were the swallows, and the mountains, and the mist. Something in the air. It's also in the eyes of the riders. Is Stephen Roche saying hello or goodbye? It's a day when the yellow jersey on Charlie Motet's back seems so fragile, almost fading. And Jean-Francois Bernard, even more distant than usual, as France awaits his greatness. Luis Herrera, the lion of the mountains, eyes his prey. And Andy Hampsten awakes to the nightmare which lies ahead. From Po, it's 103 miles over 2 major climbs to the mountaintop finish at Ardiden, a critical test for those expecting to win this year's Tour de France.
A lot of people are scared. I'm going to follow everything today and see what happens, and then at the end really open up.
Andy's going very good also. I think he's just waiting for the moment to come.
No, there's no excuses today. This is where it's going to happen.
So as the field rolled out of Po, it was clear what was in the minds of those who felt that they had a chance to win this year's Tour de France. This race without a dominant leader has given many the hope that this could be their year. The mountains should confirm or destroy those hopes. Po is the gateway to the Pyrenees, which borders France with Spain, and the route last Tuesday weaved an evil thread as it climbed to the summit of the 5,600 feet Obisque mountain. From there it descended until the much-feared Sting in the Tail lifted the riders right back up to the same height and the finish at the ski station of Ardiden. But before both those climbs could be reached, the field had an hors d'oeuvre in the form of the Col de Marie Blanc, a baby at a mere 3,400 feet. Davis Finney, winner at Bordeaux last Sunday, was soon attacking, hoping to make gains before the mountains began. While behind, the two Colombians, Wilches and Herrera, are being shadowed by Andy Hampsten, who feared them. Slopes of the Marie Blanc are not high, but they sure are steep for Davis Finney. While at the top, two early escapers were leading them all. tightly bunched together pack, all the favourites continued their nervous game of man marking man.
Finney continued to tire, but still made it across the top of Marie Blanche, the first major climb, with 2 more still to come. Finney led the pack by about a minute, and on his descent pursued the leaders. Behind, the main pack stayed together, with the stars keeping an eye on one another. Here, some of the riders took time to place a newspaper under their shirts to prevent sweat from turning to ice on their way down the mountain. The climb up Marie Blanche had not proved decisive.
So, with the favourites watching each other instead of attacking, Dag Otto Lauritsen takes his chance to try and recoup time lost the previous day. And he breaks clear to launch a 50 miles an hour pursuit of the men ahead. For the main field, the cold mist on the Marie Blanche at least forced them to keep warm on the descent. But as of yet, there was no real interest in Lauritsen, Finney and the 2 Frenchmen up front. For Dag Otto Lauritsen, here was a chance to recover at least some of the 15 minutes he lost in the opening day in the Pyrenees, which dropped him from 5th to 20th overall. That is why men like Laurent Fignon, twice the winner of the Tour, and his group of race favourites, including Andy Hampsten, are not yet concerned by a man a long way behind on time. Instead, they are more content to watch each other's every move. Finney, tiring fast, has been caught by a few riders, and at the back, Lauritsen's inspired chase brings him towards the leaders on the road. And dancing onto the lower slopes of the obese mountain, Andy Hampsten controls the main group of riders, who still are unconcerned by the Lauritsen attack. After all, this climb goes on for 10 miles. But ahead, unfashionable Frenchman Thierry Claverola, who seeks only a single day's glory and who broke away at the start of the day with Davis Finney, was now ahead alone, trying to be the first over the obese. But behind, the Norwegian member of the American 7-11 team was building his confidence in a small group, and he looked good. But Davis Finney had lost his confidence and was gone. Who'll be first over the obese? We'll find out when we return. So it was Thierry Claverola, a man who has no chance of winning the Tour de France, who crosses the top of the Col d'Aubisque mountain first, to a great ovation from the French public. And chasing him up the climb was Dutchman Teun van Vliet, a man from the lowlands finding his wings in the Pyrenees. The Dutchman was excelling, and it was hurting as he chased Claverola. But Lauritsen has been caught by all of the race favourites, including Andy Hampsten and Stephen Roche. And at the back, the yellow jersey can be seen of Charlie Motte. Ahead, Van Vliet has joined Claverola. Now there are 2 in front. The leaders have crossed the summit, and the chase is on at 60 miles an hour. So the riders descend from the misty heights of the Obisque, and very shortly they'll face the climb up towards the finish at Lutz Ardiden. But having used his skill on a descent once before, Dag Otto Lauritsen moves ahead again with Thierry Claverola, his next target. Lauritsen, riding with grim determination, catches the tiny Frenchman and then begins to concentrate on catching the Dutchman, Teun van Vliet, who is out front alone. Lauritsen, an Olympic bronze medalist in Los Angeles in 1984, was now on an inspired performance again. Suffering like never before, Van Vliet was trying to lead all the way to the mountain at Les Ardiden. It was his big chance to escape the favourites. But the chase behind by Lauritsen was merciless as he stoked up for the long pursuit in no man's land. He was behind the hound, but in front of the pack. Dag Otto Lauritsen has raced only for 6 years, and the 27-years-old ex-Norwegian policeman only turned to cycling after an accident while parachuting almost left him a permanent cripple. Lauritsen's leg broke in mid-air when his parachute opened badly. Doctors said he would have a permanently stiff leg. They should see him now. Teun van Vliet was needing all the help he could get on the final climb towards the finish because the Norwegian was in determined mood. Until this year, Dag has raced only on European teams, but he was hired by 7-Eleven to help Andy Hampsten win the Tour. He says he's at home with the Americans. Behind them both, there was a stirring among the favourites on the last climb. Andy Hampsten seemed ready for the challenge to come. But was Robert Miller from Scotland, who has won twice before in the Pyrenees in years gone by. He was anxious to prove he was a contender for the whole Tour. A rider for only 6 years, Lauritsen can hardly boast a wealth of experience. Yet, on the toughest day in the Pyrenees, he continues to chase his quarry down. This was only his second Tour de France. It was certainly going to be his best. After 4 miles of the 10 miles climb towards the ski station, Lauritsen picks up an exhausted Van Vliet. And even though there are 6 miles to go, Lauritsen doesn't give Van Vliet any time to recover. And further behind, Andy Hampsten is trying to apply the pressure, but the anticipated battle is not materializing. Herrera rides alongside him. And just behind him, Robert Miller is content to follow. The others are here too, Pablo Wilches and Stephen Roche from Ireland. No one, it seems, willing to attack the Pyrenees. One man is, though, and to enormous cheers, the first mountaintop finish in this year's Tour de France was about to bring about the first ever Norwegian stage winner. Even the weather was right for the man from Scandinavia. It was cold, windy and wet. And Lauritsen knew by now, too, that he was being chased by Colombia's Lucho Herrera, who had reduced a minute's deficit to just a few seconds in the last mile. The Norwegian was being forced to produce a grandstand finish. The near cripple who had proved what is possible if you never lose faith. Lauritsen succeeded in his stage win, but what's the picture? Herrera wasn't far behind. And it was turning out to be a great day for the 7-Eleven team. Andy Hampsten had slipped the group and gained almost a minute over his most dangerous men. And not only that, but another teammate was now in the top 12 to add strength to the strategy later. Hampsten finishes in 3rd place. He's gained time on the men he feared most.
So after 14 stages, Charlie Motet keeps the yellow jersey, Jean-Francois Bernard is second, Stephen Roche sits a close third. But the real surprise is the upstart 7-Eleven team with 3 riders in the top dozen. Lauritsen and Alcala now provide a diversion to those waiting for Andy Hampsten to make his move. But no one is more impatient than Hampsten himself.
You know, I've been riding, kind of following other people and letting them dictate the pace, and I'm way down. So it's time for me to dictate the pace, even though it's, you know, it's more energy and it helps other riders. You know, I've got to start riding my race.
We are working for Andy because he's the captain. But my goal in this tour was to win a stage, and I've done it now, so I'm very happy.
From the mist and the mountains, the Tour de France now goes to the floods of the flatlands.
That does it for today's adventure. If you're new here, please subscribe. Take it one step further and ring that notification bell. And if you enjoyed today's video, please give it a big old like and a thumbs up. It lets me know you care. I'll see you in the next video. Ride on.